The origin of all turmoil in this world does not lie elsewhere, but within the human mind, where every thought, no matter how small, can open a path of goodness or harm for life itself. Buddhism teaches that all phenomena arise from the mind, meaning every event, whether as vast as a war shaking nations or as small as a quarrel between two individuals, begins in consciousness. The mind is the root. When the root is pure, the branches flourish, but when the root is corrupted, the whole tree withers. Thus, when the mind is covered by ignorance, allowing greed, hatred, and delusion to rule, the world becomes a dwelling place of violence and enmity. Greed makes people insatiable, always craving to possess and control. Hatred ignites anger, leading to destruction, and delusion blinds people to the truth of impermanence and non-self. From these seeds, violence grows, resentment deepens, until it bursts into uncontrollable conflict. History across centuries has proven that no war, regardless of justification, has brought true happiness. Blood is shed, tears fall, lands are ravaged, the environment is ruined, economies collapse, and human hearts break apart. Children born amidst smoke and fire carry trauma, generations lose opportunities for learning, and wounds remain long after the battle's end. War not only harms the present, but plants seeds of suffering for the future, creating a cycle of karmic pain difficult to escape. The Buddha taught that those who sow violence reap suffering, an unchanging law of cause and effect. In contrast, when the mind is illuminated by wisdom, people realize that all beings exist in interdependence, that there is no absolute separation between self and others, between one nation and another. Seeing that harming others is harming oneself, compassion blossoms. Compassion is like a sweet stream flowing into barren lands, dissolving hatred and softening hardened hearts. Wisdom dispels darkness, revealing the truth that there is no eternal enemy, only souls lost in ignorance. With this realization, people no longer nurture hatred, but instead seek understanding, reconciliation, and peace. Peace is not the fragile silence after gunfire, nor merely an agreement written on paper. It is the state of a calm mind, a radiant wisdom, a loving heart that embraces unconditionally. Peace arises not from external conditions, but from inner transformation. When each person learns to return to themselves, to observe each breath, to recognize every emotion, to master anger, and to release greed, they plant seeds of serenity for the whole world. The Buddha said that conquering thousands in battle is not as great as conquering oneself, for the victor of war still harbors hatred, while one who subdues the mind has no enemies anywhere. In mindfulness, one perceives the deep interconnectedness between oneself and all beings, understanding that harming one life is harming oneself, and protecting life means safeguarding the world. Through this insight, love expands, barriers dissolve, and the path to peace becomes clear. Thus, peace is not something distant or mysterious, but a path existing in every moment, in every breath, and in every act of kindness. When each person lives mindfully and radiates love, peace is no longer a dream, but a reality.
War has always been a deep scar in the history of humanity, where suffering belongs not only to the present, but also spreads and lingers across generations. The nature of war never brings true happiness, for within it lies destruction, sowing pain to all beings. When violence is nurtured and unleashed, everything is dragged into the whirlpool of death. Homes are shattered, cities crumble, villages fall silent, and countless fragile lives vanish in ignorance. Families are torn apart, mothers lose their children, children lose their childhood, and the elderly live their days engulfed in fear. War does not only kill bodies, but also destroys souls. Amidst the smoke and fire, hearts become hardened, moral values are buried under ashes. The environment suffers heavily. Forests are burned, rivers are poisoned, lands turn barren, losing their vitality. Economies collapse, societies descend into chaos. Hunger and disease spread like endless storms. These consequences do not end with time, but quietly pass to the next generations, like haunting ghosts within the collective consciousness. Children raised amid bombings carry in their hearts trauma and resentment, memories of suffering clinging to them throughout their lives, passed down through the silent tears of their parents. Generation after generation, insecurity and suspicion do not fade but smolder, waiting for a chance to ignite into new violence. This is the cycle of suffering that Buddhism reveals. From anger arises violence. From violence comes unwholesome karma. From that karma sprouts painful results, and from those results, hatred grows again. The cycle turns endlessly, dragging humanity into a boundless ocean of pain. No side in war truly wins, for the so-called victors still live in fear and anxiety, while the defeated drown in sorrow and loss. All become victims of ignorance. The Buddha taught that violence cannot bring peace. Hatred cannot extinguish hatred. Only love can dissolve hatred. When people fail to realize this truth, they continue to feed violence, planting more unwholesome seeds. Every act of killing, every harsh word, every thought filled with anger adds fuel to the fire of suffering, making it burn and spread even more. The world sinks deeper into darkness because of these negative deeds. Yet, even in the thickest darkness, the light of compassion can still shine. Buddhism reminds us that only when people stop, when they look deeply into the root of suffering, will they see that destroying others is also destroying themselves. With this realization, hatred gradually fades away, replaced by empathy and love. Such awakening breaks the whirlpool of suffering, guiding humanity out of the cycle of war. Only in this way can the world escape the ghosts of the past, heal hidden wounds, and reclaim its inherent peace. This path is not the path of weapons, but the path of wisdom and compassion, the path that each person can walk starting now to transform the consequences of war and build a peaceful world for generations to come.
The history of humankind serves as the clearest mirror reflecting the law of cause and effect that the Buddha revealed. From ancient times to the present, countless mighty empires that once conquered the four corners of the world, relying on weapons and power, have eventually fallen, leaving behind only ashes, ruins, and the lingering cries of generations. Victories that seemed glorious were merely the beginning of endless suffering, for the nature of violence is to sow seeds of pain, and sooner or later it must reap pain. Empires that ruled with swords, that painted maps with blood, ultimately collapsed under the impermanence of life.
Battlefields that once echoed with the shouts of victors are now silent fields where wild grass grows over the bones of countless innocent lives. Buddhism teaches that every action rooted in an unwholesome mind leads to unwholesome results, and no power can escape the law of karma. Whatever arises from greed, hatred, and delusion may appear beneficial in the short term, but it only creates more negative karma, pulling humanity deeper into endless suffering. No victory achieved through violence can bring lasting peace, for the victor lives in fear, clinging to what was seized, while the defeated harbors pain and hatred waiting to strike back. This vicious cycle continues generation after generation, keeping humanity trapped in the shadows of war. In every conflict, beyond the visible losses of lives and possessions, there are invisible wounds in the human soul. Division, suspicion, and simmering hatred seep into the collective consciousness, becoming burdens passed down through time. Painful memories, even after decades or centuries, haunt communities and make them prone to new conflicts whenever circumstances ignite them. This is the cycle of suffering that Buddhism warns against. The Buddha's teaching on karma illuminates this truth. Those who sow violence will reap suffering. It is not a warning, but an immutable truth of the universe. It reminds us that every action, word, and thought creates causes and corresponding effects. Sow bitter seeds, and bitter fruits will grow. Sow seeds of goodness, and the harvest will be sweet. History proves that only love and wisdom can free humanity from the spiral of violence. When people choose non-violence, choose understanding instead of hatred, reconciliation instead of revenge, they begin to plant wholesome seeds and harvest peace. Enlightened sages and spiritual leaders who walked this path showed the world a truth. The strength of love endures far beyond the might of weapons. Therefore, the lesson from history is not only to remember the pain of the past, but to awaken, to let go of violence, to cultivate compassion, and to let wisdom guide every action. Only then can humanity end the long chain of suffering and open the door to a true era of peace.
The aftermath of war is far deeper than what the eyes can see, for it not only destroys bodies, but also devastates human souls, leaving invisible wounds that last for generations. When bombs stop exploding and peace treaties are signed, people often think it is over. Yet, in the hearts of many, and in the collective consciousness, war remains, like ghosts that never sleep. War takes millions of lives, turning ordinary people into lifeless bodies lying on battlefields. But its destruction does not end there. It also tears apart the bonds of communities, shattering trust between people. In the air after war, suspicion, fear, and smoldering hatred seep into every relationship, making it hard for society to heal completely. Children growing up amidst smoke and fire, under the sound of bombs and the cries of loved ones, carry deep traumas. Those painful memories do not disappear as they grow up. They turn into scars that make it hard for them to open their hearts, to trust, to love. Many lose their childhood, their chance to learn, and thus their future. Generation after generation, the shadow of war continues, robbing youth of innocence and hope. Beyond individuals, war erodes social morality. When violence becomes normal, when killing becomes familiar, human values crumble. Compassion is forgotten. Selfishness and greed prevail.
people become hardened, closed, and less empathetic to the suffering of others. Society is no longer built on love and cooperation, but on suspicion and fear. Along with this, culture, the soul of a nation, is also lost. Monuments, heritages, and traditions are destroyed in the flames. Songs, stories, and customs fade away, leaving a void in the community's memory. This legacy makes a nation lose part of its identity, its spiritual continuity across generations. The environment, the foundation of life, is also scarred by war. Forests burn, rivers are poisoned, lands turn into deadly minefields. Nature, once gentle, becomes a dangerous place, making human survival even harder. Buddhism teaches that all this suffering is the result of unwholesome karma. When people sow the seeds of violence, they not only harm others, but also harm themselves. Karma does not vanish. It accumulates, spreads, and causes communities, societies, and even nature to suffer. This painful result continues until transformation occurs. Transformation here is not only rebuilding houses or restoring the economy, it is healing the wounds of the heart. When people look deeply into the root of suffering, let go of hatred, and open their hearts to compassion and forgiveness, karma begins to dissolve. Buddhism teaches that only love can heal hatred. Only wisdom can dispel ignorance. When people live mindfully, they see clearly what war has taken away and learn to cherish what remains. They protect life, preserve cultural values, and nurture kindness. Transformation begins with individuals, with small but wholesome actions, spreading to the community and then healing society as a whole. This path is not quick, but it is certain, for it works from within to without, from the heart to the world. Only when people truly awaken, realizing that their peace is tied to the peace of others, will they stop harming one another. Then the ghosts of war will fade, making way for the light of peace and new life. Buddhism reminds us that no matter how heavy the scars of war are, if people return to compassion and wisdom, all wounds can be healed, and from the ashes, life will rise again.
Peace is not merely the silence that follows gunfire, nor just the absence of conflict, but a state of tranquility that arises from the awakening of the human heart and spreads throughout the community. In the presence of peace, people can take a deep breath, feel serenity in every moment, and nurture wisdom, morality, and creativity. When the threat of violence disappears, people dare to dream, to build, and to contribute. A stable society is fertile ground where wholesome seeds are planted and flourish, where love, understanding, and cooperation are cultivated daily. Peace paves the way for economic prosperity, as in a safe environment, production, trade, and collaboration thrive. Instead of consuming resources in war and destruction, people invest in sustainable development, healthcare, education, technology, and social welfare. Nations that maintain long-term peace have strong economies, improved living standards, and narrowed gaps between rich and poor. Moreover, peace preserves culture, for in safety, people have the conditions to protect traditions, revive forgotten heritages, and spread beauty across the world. Art, music, and literature, all expressions of the soul, can only blossom in peaceful settings. In such an atmosphere, science and technology also advance, as human intelligence is encouraged to create, unbound by fear or destruction. Inventions that benefit life, solutions to protect the environment, and breakthroughs in medicine are born from societies that cherish peace.
On this foundation, people live happier lives, enjoying stability, education, healthcare, safe workplaces, and freedom of expression. In peace, relationships become stronger as barriers of suspicion and fear vanish. Trust is built, love is nurtured, and cooperation expands. Peace not only brings joy to individuals, but also harmony to communities, making society more humane and compassionate. Buddhism teaches that when the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. This means peace does not only come from external conditions, but begins with the inner calm of each individual. When people cultivate morality, practice mindfulness, and open their hearts to compassion, they create positive energy that spreads everywhere. This energy is like light dispelling darkness, like cool water soothing the heat of hatred, calming hidden conflicts within hearts. Therefore, peace is not a static state, but a dynamic process, continuously nurtured through wholesome thoughts, words, and deeds. The sustainable development of a society depends not only on material resources, but also on its moral foundation. In peace, people can learn, raise awareness, and live responsibly toward one another and the environment. When morality is nourished, greed restrained, anger transformed, and wisdom awakened, society develops harmoniously and sustainably. Peace also allows people to protect and restore nature, for when they are not caught in destruction, they have time and energy to care for the environment, preserve forests, rivers, and seas. As nature recovers, the earth becomes cleaner and life is safeguarded for future generations. All of this affirms that peace is the indispensable foundation for sustainable development. Buddhism reminds us that peace is not distant, but the result of awakening and compassion. Only when each person sows wholesome seeds in the heart, loves and understands, can society be secure and the world flourish. Thus, peace is the source of happiness, the base of every civilization's endurance. From peace, wisdom is illuminated, morality is elevated, creativity encouraged, and life harmonized. This is the path humanity must walk to avoid the darkness of suffering and move toward the light of lasting serenity.
The power of compassion in dissolving violence is an eternal truth the Buddha taught humanity. He affirmed that only love can extinguish hatred, for hatred can never be removed by hatred. It only fades when illuminated by compassion. Compassion is not a fleeting emotion or a weak sentiment, but a powerful energy, a miraculous force capable of transforming darkness into light, violence into peace. When compassion arises in the human heart, anger subsides, hatred dissolves, and understanding unfolds. In that state, wholesome actions, gentle words, and kind thoughts are born, creating energy that spreads and calms the fires of conflict. Even a small act of kindness, a smile, a gentle word, or a quiet helping hand holds the power to change circumstances, for it awakens the goodness within others, like a drop of water slowly softening the hardest stone. History has witnessed moments when violence seemed unstoppable, yet the mere presence of compassion transformed the outcome. Enlightened sages and spiritual leaders have used love to reconcile and heal divides, proving that compassion is stronger than any weapon. Compassion not only affects others, but also saves the one who practices it. When the heart opens with compassion, the person feels light, free from the prison of ego and the grip of hatred. Loving kindness melts barriers, erases boundaries between self and other, friend and foe,
allowing all beings to be seen equally, where every life is precious, every suffering needs soothing. Buddhism emphasizes that compassion must walk hand in hand with wisdom. Blind love cannot dissolve violence. Only love illuminated by wisdom leads to true transformation. Wisdom reveals the roots of suffering, understands why others act violently, and sees that they too are victims of ignorance. With this understanding, love becomes boundless and forgiveness unconditional. Compassion is the thread that connects people, for when the heart opens, this wholesome energy spreads, resonates, and creates a collective force strong enough to calm the waves of conflict. A kind act or gentle word can inspire thousands, making waves of love flow everywhere, dispelling the dark clouds of anger. Even in the modern world, where conflicts and hatred still exist, the power of compassion proves its value. Wherever true love is present, violence retreats, hatred is dissolved, and reconciliation opens. Compassion does not require grand gestures or material strength, for its power lies in sincerity and patience. Drops of compassion seep into dry hearts, reviving goodness, sprouting love, and transforming the world. The Buddha taught that loving kindness is boundless, its energy never exhausted. When one generates compassion, they not only help others, but also liberate themselves. For in love, there is no room for hatred. Thus, compassion is not only the path to peace, but also the foundation of liberation and enlightenment. It is the power that heals deep wounds, resolves all conflicts, and builds a peaceful world. In a society where everyone nurtures love, listens, and empathizes, the flames of hatred will fade, the walls of separation will fall, and the flowers of peace will bloom everywhere. This power lies not far away, but in every heart, waiting to be awakened. Once compassion is lit within, darkness has no refuge, and the light of serenity will shine across the world.
The intonation of mindfulness is profoundly significant, for mindfulness is the light that illuminates the mind, helping one to clearly see each emotion arising within. When the light of mindfulness shines upon anger, it no longer has the strength to flare up and turn into violence. The Buddha taught that anger is like fire. If it is not recognized and embraced, it will burn both the one who harbors it and everything around. Mindfulness is the cool water that soothes that fire, allowing a person to stop before words or actions cause harm. When someone lives mindfully, they listen deeply to themselves, feel the unrest in their heart, see the root of their anger, and do not let it lead them. In that moment, awakening arises. Instead of reacting with violence, they respond with compassion. This not only eases tension in personal relationships, but also contributes to building a larger environment of peace. A society where individuals practice mindfulness is one that listens, respects, and pauses before causing harm. In such a community, people do not rush to judge or retaliate. They take a step back to observe and understand. This understanding is the foundation of empathy, and from empathy springs love. When everyone practices mindfulness together, wholesome energy spreads, calming the undercurrents of anger and suspicion, stopping conflict at its root. At the leadership level, mindfulness plays an equally crucial role. A mindful leader is one who sees far, listens to the suffering of the people, restrains ego, and is not swept away by anger or the desire for power.
Instead of choosing destruction, they choose dialogue, reconciliation, and building. Their awakening allows them to make wise decisions, creating stability and sparing countless lives from suffering. History has seen moments when a single mindful leader prevented wars and saved thousands. Mindfulness also helps one perceive impermanence, seeing that all emotions, no matter how strong, are but passing waves. With this insight, one no longer clings to anger nor lets it control actions. They learn to embrace anger with breath, with stillness, and watch it dissolve like clouds under the sun. This practice requires patience but brings immense results: a calm mind, a peaceful person, and a serene world. Buddhism reminds us that when one mind is awake, it already contributes to the peace of the world. Every mindful breath is a step away from the darkness of conflict. Every mindful action is a seed of peace planted in life. When such seeds are sown everywhere, fields of serenity will bloom, replacing barren lands of hatred. In today's world, where conflicts can ignite from a single word or small act, mindfulness is more vital than ever. It helps people remain calm amid media influences, provocative news, and social pressures. Thus, they are not swept away by waves of violence, but stay clear, discerning right from wrong, choosing the path of love. Mindfulness is not merely a meditation technique, but a way of living, a path that enables humans to master themselves and dissolve conflicts from their roots. When each person practices, society becomes harmonious and the world moves closer to true peace.
The lesson from non-violent examples is a vivid testament to the truth Buddhism has always affirmed. Wisdom and compassion hold power far greater than any weapon. Throughout history, humanity has stood at the brink of destruction as violence escalated and hatred spread. Yet, in those darkest moments, the torches of compassion and wisdom have shone brightly, opening the path to salvation. Many sages and spiritual leaders chose nonviolence, facing conflict not with swords, but with love and understanding. They sought not to defeat opponents, but to awaken the innate goodness in people, thereby dissolving hatred and ending violence. The Buddha himself is the supreme example of this power. He never responded to attacks with violence, but with compassion. When insulted, he remained silent. When threatened, he smiled with loving kindness. When witnessing suffering, he opened his arms to help. His boundless love and infinite wisdom transformed countless hearts, even the fiercest enemies. Following this spirit, many great figures chose the path of nonviolence. Mahatma Gandhi, leading India's struggle for independence, relied not on weapons, but on patience, understanding, and love, proving that nonviolence could shake an empire without a single gunshot. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for racial equality in America through nonviolence, spreading a message of love, awakening the conscience of millions, and leaving an everlasting mark on human rights history.
Thich Nhat Hanh, during times of war, traveled tirelessly to call for reconciliation, helping victims without discrimination, and inspiring the world with mindfulness and understanding. All these examples show that love and understanding are stronger than military power because they do not create more suffering but heal wounds. Weapons sow hatred and death, while compassion and wisdom evoke empathy, dissolve barriers, and soften hearts hardened by fear and anger. Nonviolence is not weakness. On the contrary, it requires extraordinary inner strength, enduring patience, and unwavering faith in human transformation. When one faces violence without retaliating, they have conquered themselves, transcending anger and fear. Such victory is the truest victory, for it causes no suffering but brings peace. Buddhism teaches that hatred is never ended by hatred. Only love dissolves hatred. Non-violent examples embody this teaching, reminding us that in any circumstance, the path of compassion is the right one, because it leads to peace and lasting happiness. This lesson remains as relevant today as ever, in a world still engulfed in conflict and discord. If people follow these examples, listening, empathizing, and meeting hostility with calmness and love, hatred will fade and peace will emerge. Nonviolence begins not only at the societal level, but also within each individual. When every person practices nonviolence in thought, speech, and action, they contribute to creating a serene environment. A single spark of compassion lit in the heart can dispel the darkness of violence. The energy of love resonates, spreads, and transforms not just individuals, but entire communities, even the world. This is the immense power of nonviolence, the power rooted in wisdom and compassion, capable of healing all wounds and building a world free from hatred, free from anger, and free from destruction, full of compassion and wisdom like the Buddha himself.
Peace is not a distant state waiting at the end of the road, but the very path each person must walk in every moment of life. The Zen master taught that peace is not a goal to be reached only when all conflicts end, but the way we live each day, the energy we plant in every thought, word, and action. When people see peace as a way of living rather than a prize, the world changes from its roots. Peace cannot be imposed from the outside. It can only arise from within, from a heart that loves, understands, and awakens. Every loving word is like a cool breeze dispelling the heat of hatred. Every wholesome action is like a seed planted in barren soil, sprouting life. And every mindful thought is a light that dispels the darkness of ignorance. These small things, when repeated and sustained, connect and create a stream of peaceful energy that spreads everywhere. Buddhism emphasizes that peace does not lie in the absence of war, but in the presence of compassion and wisdom. In a world where each person nurtures love, contemplates the roots of suffering, and transforms them, the energy of peace spreads, permeates, and reaches every corner of life. Peace does not demand grand gestures. It begins with simple acts, a sincere smile, a word of thanks, and act of forgiveness. These seemingly small things have the power to calm storms within the heart, dissolve conflicts, and heal wounds. When a person plants seeds of peace in their heart, they create happiness not only for themselves, but also for others. Like a drop of water falling into a lake, creating ripples, the wholesome energy from a loving heart spreads, touching other hearts, resonating, and together
radiating serenity. The world, made of countless individuals, becomes better when each person sows a seed of peace. The key is to walk this path with perseverance, for peace does not arrive in a day, but is nurtured through daily mindful living. When faced with challenges, instead of reacting with anger, we pause, take a deep breath, and see the nature of things with wisdom. When encountering someone who causes pain, instead of retaliating with hatred, we choose forgiveness and understanding. Each moment like this is a step on the path of peace. This practice, when spreading from individuals to families, from families to communities, and from communities to all humanity, creates a world filled with the light of serenity. The Zen master said that peace is every step, every breath, every smile. This reminds us that peace is always present, not far away, but here and now, where we stand and live. When each person realizes this, they no longer search for peace elsewhere, but create it themselves. The stillness in every heart is the foundation for the peace of the world. Once human hearts open with love and wisdom, peace is no longer a longing, but a reality. And when seeds of peace are planted everywhere, the world will bloom with happiness, all beings will live in joy, and the light of compassion will shine everywhere, dispelling all darkness of suffering.
The Dharma, as taught by the Buddha, is the guiding lighthouse that leads humanity across the ocean of ignorance, freeing the mind from the dark cycle of war and violence. At its heart lies the noble eightfold path, the middle way that serves both as the means and the end, opening the gate to peace from within each individual. This path is not mere theory, but a living practice, a step-by-step transformation of suffering at its roots. Walking the eightfold path, one cultivates wisdom and compassion, the two essential energies that radiate peace and dissolve hatred. Right view is the foundation, allowing one to see the truth of all phenomena. Everything is impermanent. Nothing exists independently, and all things arise through interdependence. With this insight, attachment and ego fade, anger finds no place to grow, and the heart opens to understanding. From right view arises right intention, nurturing wholesome thoughts that replace hatred with love, and the wish for all beings to be happy. Every wholesome thought is a seed planted in the soil of the heart, blossoming into pure speech and action. Right speech is the practice of speaking truthfully, gently, and with kindness. Words born of compassion heal divisions, soothe conflict, and restore trust, like a cool stream calming a thirsty soul. Right effort is the power that keeps one moving forward, overcoming unwholesome habits and strengthening wholesome qualities. This effort is like a steady flame warming the heart, helping one stay on the path of goodness, immune to the pull of greed, hatred, and delusion. Right mindfulness is the awareness that recognizes every thought and feeling as it arises, preventing anger from flaring, fear from dominating, and ignorance from taking control. This awareness is the brake that stops violence before it begins, opening the way for understanding and empathy. Right concentration is the culmination of practice, bringing the mind into deep stillness, firm like a mountain, unmoved by any storm. In that stillness, wisdom shines, illuminating everything, and every action arises from clarity and love. When individuals fully practice the Eightfold Path, the energy of compassion and wisdom spreads, dissolving hatred from its roots. This energy is like the sun that dispels the night, like clear water that washes away the mud, lifting the world from the darkness of violence. A society where people practice the Dharma becomes harmonious, for everyone listens, loves, and places the collective good above selfish desires. Buddhism teaches that for the world to be at peace, each heart must first find peace. When the heart is calm, conflicts fade. When love spreads, hatred naturally dissolves. One person practicing the Dharma can inspire hundreds. Hundreds can inspire thousands, and the light of wisdom and compassion will shine everywhere, freeing humanity from the shadows of war and leading it into the radiant light of serenity. Thus, the Eightfold Path is not merely a teaching, but the practical way out, the path that brings humanity to freedom, happiness, and lasting peace.